Greetings, my friends, and welcome. I mean, seriously, everybody's so exercised. And by the way, Rand Paul did step over it here a bit here when he accused some people of wanting the United States to be attacked in order to prove a point, and he walked that back. But Rand Paul's not the big story. Scott Walker's the story in Iowa. Scott Walker and Bernie Sanders and what's his name, O'Malley, are the big story. The rally that Bernie Sanders had in Iowa has got everybody nonplussed. Nobody can figure it out. I have. I know exactly why the left is going nuts over Bernie Sanders. For one thing, sex scandals are resume enhancements in the Democrat Party. They always have been. And Bernie's got a little bit of a sex scandal going with that memo, that his 50 Shades of Grey impersonation that he did, his ruminations about what men are doing when they're doing other things, and what women secretly want when men are doing it to them. That kind of stuff enhances Democrats. Look at Bill Clinton. Doesn't get him in trouble. But there's a more salient reason why. I mean, Bernie Sanders, a full-fledged, acknowledged, admitted socialist. There's a reason why he's drawing flocks and flocks of people when he goes out. The Martin O'Malley announcement right here at the Daily Beast, which is a left-wing website, Martin O'Malley's embarrassing announcement. The former governor of Maryland announced his candidacy for the Democrat nomination. This is a couple days ago, amid protesters and a smattering of supporters. They go on to talk about how embarrassing it was. There's a reason why, but there was still some interest in O'Malley. And what it means is that there's interest in people in the Democrat side other than Hillary. And I can tell you why it is, and it's not just Bernie Sanders' sex scandal, if you can even say he's got one. The Washington Post has a story today wondering why in the world people are so down on the economy. They can't figure it out at the Washington Post, why people are so down on the economy. The economy, it's roaring. It's like they're not aware of the revised first quarter growth rate of minus 0.7%. They talk about wages kicking up and jobs kicking up and productivity kicking. They're seeing things nobody else sees, and then they're wondering why nobody sees it. And then they conclude, well, it must be psychological. I have a question. When the news came out last week that the first quarter GDP growth rate was minus 0.7%, why didn't the president suggest a new stimulus package? I mean, if the first stimulus led to burgeoning economic growth, and if the first stimulus was exactly what was called for 6 years ago, why doesn't he do it again? No. I'm not trying to make a point of being serious. Why doesn't he do it again? Everybody thinks the economy's stagnant. Perception is reality in politics. And if the American people economy's in the tank, and it is, but even if they think it is and it isn't, they still think it is, that's going to win the day attitudes, why not do another stimulus? Well, he knows it didn't work because the first stimulus was not a stimulus. The first stimulus was not about boosting the economy, and the truth of that is proof here. I mean, if the stimulus in 2000, the Porculus Bill 2009 was the answer, we wouldn't be where we are today. But the first Porculus Bill was just that. It was not an economic stimulus plan. It was far more than that. Had nothing to do with economic growth. What else do we have here? Let's see. Yeah, why don't Americans feel better about the economy? And the NSA business. I'll tell you, on this, why don't Americans feel better about the economy and why Bernie Sanders is drawing a lot of people. And look, that's a relative number. I mean, they're not overflow crowds, but the drive-bys are surprised because the drive-bys in their mind think everybody thinks like they do. And that would mean every Democrat is all in for Hillary. And so when they see Bernie Sanders literally from Jurassic Park drawing droves of people, they can't understand. They don't believe it. And then they see O'Malley out there and they expected O'Malley to do better than he did, because O'Malley has abs. O'Malley goes out and flexes like Putin. They figured that's all it would take to get a lot of votes, particularly women. And it's looking like it's going to be a tougher road to hoe for O'Malley than people thought. But they think everybody's all in for Hillary. But the reasons why people are showing up has everything to do, and this is sad, as I said, It has everything to do with people's perception of where they are economically in this country. It can be traced back. There was some old German economist at the turn of the 20th century, the early 1900s, who was famous for asking, why hasn't America gone socialist? Because it was thought to be the natural thing for countries, populations, governments to do. Just like everybody by then in Europe had gone socialist. Socialism, communism has been the way most people have been forced to live in the human condition. Now, communism existed long before it was called that, but I mean people living in tyranny, people who were not allowed freedom. So this famous German economist, can't remember his name, said, why hadn't America gone socialist yet? And there was a substantive answer to that, and it was called We the People. In the preamble of the Declaration, We the People, the First Amendment, freedom, liberty, and so forth. And the government was not of primary import in our founding documents, Constitution, and so forth. But in addition to that, there was no economic need for socialism. For socialism to be attractive, what do you need? Just a little pop quiz here. For socialism to be attractive to people, what needs to exist? Well, yeah, unrest and chaos. Speaking of which, you just remind we've got some statistics on crime in Baltimore that will blow your mind. Do you know that 300,000 people have moved out of Baltimore since 1972? 300,000 people. And it's not all because Nancy Pelosi was there. 300, that's the crime rate. Now, the thing that needs to exist, or one of the many things that needs to exist for socialism to be acceptable, by acceptable, I mean by the people. Every government in the world would love to be socialist, including ours. It's power. The thing that you need, the thing that needs to be in place, the thing that needs to happen for socialism to be attractive is for people to think they have no more chance at upward mobility. When people think their chance at moving from the middle class to the upper middle class is over, or really, really hard, and more than anything else, just a crapshoot, not guaranteed by hard work, not the usual formulas to get there when they're burnt out. When people think that where they are economically is as good as it's going to get for their whole life, socialism looks really, really good. And that's the answer. That's why Bernie Sanders has drawn a lot of people. Because the Democrats are depressed and angry and dispirited every day. They have no hope of life getting better. Why would they? I mean, everything they believe in doesn't work, and they're living in the midst of it. Speaking of Elon Musk, I don't know if you know who Elon Musk is, but for those of you who don't, he's a hero to millennials. He's a hero to the high-tech crowd. He's the guy who started Tesla, the electric car company, and SpaceX. And he's a billionaire. But he's a hero. He is because he's considered to be the next Steve Jobs plus some. He's considered to be genius, brilliant, risk-taking, fearless. It turns out that if it weren't for almost 85% government underwriting, Elon Musk wouldn't have what he has. In other words, Elon Musk is the product, and his companies are the product of $4.9 billion in government subsidies. Take that away from Elon Musk, and he's no different than anybody else struggling to achieve. Now, this is not to criticize Elon Musk. I don't know him. It's not to criticize him personally. It's to stay on topic about why socialism and big government ends up being attractive to people. When your position in life says your hard work is not going to matter to you, then where are you going to turn for sustenance? You're going to turn to a place where all the money is, and that's government. And that's what's happening today. In fact, those are the circumstances that's what the transformation of America is all about, is transforming us to socialism, and as an added bonus, because that's what the American people want, theoretically. and are willing to vote for. So that's somewhat of a table setter. There are other things that I have to get into today, too, in addition to all that. Take a brief time out, come back, get started with all of it after this. Okay, we're back. It's great to have you with us. Rush Limbaugh kicking off a brand new week of broadcast excellence. Now, I mentioned earlier, I want to get started with this. I'm not going to be able to wrap this up before the end of the hour. Maybe I will. But I have, let's see, basically, two stories here. And the first one is Society's lottery winners. It's a Forbes story. And the second one is American Socialism's Day in the Sun. And this is about what I referenced at the show open, about why so many people are seemingly so excited and showing up at Bernie Sanders' campaign events in Iowa. And the story here at financialtimes.com has the story American Socialism's Day in the Sun. Popularity of the more radical Democrat Sanders dragging Clinton to the left in the presidential race. I think it's a little premature to say that Bernie Sanders is dragging Hillary anywhere. And by the way, the idea that Hillary's going to get dragged to the left, that's misinformation anyway. Hillary doesn't be dragged anywhere to the left. Hillary is the left. Hillary is Obama in a pantsuit. In fact, it's Obama that wears the mom jeans and Hillary that wears the pantsuits. But Hillary's not a moderate. She's not a centrist. And anything that she says or does to make it look like she is fraudulent. Just like this. Have you seen this? Vanity Fair cover. My name is Caitlin. Is that what it says? It's Bruce Jenner following the Call Me Caitlin. Yeah, Call Me Caitlin. Let me put that off to the side. I don't want to distract myself with that. Now, the American Socialism's Day in the Sun. This is the story dealing with this way back turn of the 19th century, or 20th century, actually. This guy, some German economist, perplexed why America, back in the early 1900s, has not gone socialist yet. And the answer to that is all rooted in the fact that everybody in America considered themselves in the middle class. You see, in socialist countries, people are so poor that what they aspire to is not the 1%, not the 10%. What people in socialist or communist country aspire to is what we call lower middle class, in some cases middle class. America was already compared to the rest of the world, and in world history, America was so far advanced economically, our people, our population. We already had a vibrant middle class that was just beginning in the turn of the 20th century to dominate the world. So there was no need for socialism. Socialism is viewed as a step up by people who want it and support it. But now we step forward, we jump forward to 2015, and we find that many Democrats and people on the left are eagerly anticipating a socialist America, full-fledged, admitted, no bones about it, socialist America. And you know why? It's because of downward mobility now in the American economy, not upward. Even the Washington Post addresses this today in a story that's not really related to this. Their story is, man, we got a great economy going on here. Why do people not think so? I'm not kidding. That is a lead story in the Washington Post. So I want to look at here society's lottery winners and this idea that America somehow has a majority of people now seeking socialism. And here are the numbers to chew on until we get back and get into detail. As recently as 2008, 63% of Americans identified as upper middle or middle class. 7 years later, now, 2015, that number has fallen to 51%. 51% now identify as upper middle or middle class. Meanwhile, the share of Americans who self-identify as working and lower class has jumped from 35 to 48%, and that is why people like Bernie Sanders, avowed socialists, are drawing big crowds of leftists and Democrats, because to them it's a step up. It's sad commentary on what has been done to this country. Washington Post, why don't Americans feel better about the economy? If there was